Merry Christmas, Fort Worth. It is 25 December. Not only have you found the Fort Worth Roots morning show, but you found our Christmas edition. Today's going to be a little different, but if this is your first time joining us on the Fort Worth Roots morning show, this is meant to be a small segment, 20 to 30 minutes. Sometimes we go over. Just meant to get you informed with what's going on around your city here in Fort Worth, Texas. If you've ever got an event or anything you'd like to share with us, you can call in at 817-988-1292 and leave us a voicemail, or do it the right way. Take an audio recording of your voice and send it to us at media@fortworthroots.com. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different because it's Christmas, and we would like to tell you from the staff here at Fort Worth Roots and all of our friends at Fort Worth Roots and our sponsors, Merry Christmas. Hope you're somewhere warm, safe, and surrounded by awesome people. Sometimes Christmas isn't like that. I've spent many Christmases overseas or in training situations where I was out and away from family. And that kind of changed the tone for Christmas for me. Not much of a Christmas guy. At least I wasn't. About a year and a half ago, I found a family that adopted me, and last year and this year we have spent just an amazing time together, enjoying each other's company, and I've got to experience their family traditions and be part of all the shenanigans. And it reminds me of what it's like to actually have a connected family that gets together and does those things, and reminds me of being a kid whenever all of our cousins and aunts and uncles and the grandparents could get together and do all that fun stuff. So I hope that you're getting to do that. But if you're not, Merry Christmas anyway. And this isn't your last Christmas. It's not your first. It's not your last. And you can always do it better next year if you want to. It's not the white Christmas that we all hope for every year. But at least it's a little cooler today. It's 58 for a high, 48 for a low tonight. We had a lot of rain yesterday. I drive a little Toyota Camry, and I was going down 199 yesterday, heading away from downtown, and the streets were so flooded. Doesn't look like we have any rain in the forecast for today, but we do have an 88% chance of rain tomorrow. Shout out to all of our first responders and service members, our armed forces people, all of the folks out there, our healthcare providers, people in truly essential positions that had to be out taking care of the community rather than being home with their family today. You're definitely in our thoughts. Today is National Day of, you guessed it, it's Christmas, but let's see what else is going on today. Goal Mile 2021, Jesus' birthday, National Pumpkin Pie Day, Ann Lennox's birthday. Just not a whole lot. Everybody's just kind of making way for, Jimmy Buffett. Everybody's making way for Jimmy Buffett's birthday this December 25th. Let's click on that and just see how old he is today. We've got a story that we're going to read you here in a minute. We're going to bypass the news stories today because it's Christmas. We're going to do something a little different, and I'm hoping that over the years we get to make it kind of a tradition. I'll read a Christmas story. I decided that would be fun. No traffic, no Sky Viper today. We gave Sky Viper the day off. It's Christmas after all. Jimmy Buffett, December 25th, 2024. He was born in 1946, has been entertaining fans now for nearly 5 decades. He makes music about the people and places he's seen on the road less traveled. Let's see, does it say how old he is? 78. 78 years old. Well, happy Buffy. Happy Buffy Day. Christmas. Jimmy Buffy Day. All right, let's get some more music going. I think next year we'll try to find some unregulated Christmas music for you guys, but I imagine as you're listening to this, you probably have a little bit of Christmas music going in the background. So we'll let that take over this year. One of my favorite radio shows to this day, and there's a few, because growing up as a kid, we would listen to morning shows on the way to school. And it changed over the years what my parents liked to listen to. That's what we would listen to. And my favorite still to this day is Paul Harvey. Paul Harvey was a great radio character and always had really incredible stories. And I love the way that he presented it. There was kind of always a hook. Not right at the end, but getting close to the end. It was great. If you're watching us on YouTube this morning, we've got the fire going, the Christmas tree, and just a lot of Christmas paraphernalia surrounding me. I wanted to kind of set up a little backdrop for you this morning. Typically, we do the morning show at a new place called Hoppin', and I got to give them a shout out because the whole reason that we're able to do the morning show is because of our sponsors. I was able to step away from my full-time job about 3 months ago, and we're not rich, but we're making it, and it's because of our sponsors. And the morning show is directly the folks that are directly responsible for the morning show, Michael and Holly Brittner from Hoppin' in Fort Worth. It's a new venue right down the street from Doc's Records on Weisenberger Street, right behind that West 7th Target. They've got a really badass venue there for music and hanging out. 58 taps on the wall with everything you could think of. And if you want to, you can join me New Year's Eve out at Hoppin' for the New Year's Eve party. It starts at 7, goes till 1 in the morning. They're going to have a DJ, Angelo's Barbecue, and pizza after the barbecue runs out. $1 per beer. 21 and up, please. And if you'd like to join us, you can get a ticket by going to their Instagram page. It is Hoppin' FWTX, and click on that link. Use offer code ROOTS, ROOTS 25, and save you some money on that ticket. Pretty substantial discount, actually. All right, so let's launch year one, our new Christmas tradition here. And maybe we'll have some guests next year. I think that'd be cool. Our co-host, Megan, decided to not join us this morning. I think for religious reasons or something. The story that I'm going to read you this Christmas, this 2024 Christmas, is called The Set of Poe. George Ade. It's A-D-E. I'm sure I'm not saying that right. This is from American Christmas Stories. You can find it storyoftheweek.loa.org to read on yourself. But you can probably just Google The Set of Poe. That is going to be our story for today. We got Taylor Pace in the background. That's our background music. Really appreciate Taylor Pace letting us use his art for our show. I was kind of nervous contacting Taylor Pace whenever we were getting ready to start the morning show, because I was pretty sure his answer was going to be either no or I want $1 billion if you're going to use my music. And he was nice enough to allow us to use this track and was actually very excited that we were going to be using it on the show here at Fort Worth Roots. So happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and thank you, Taylor Pace, for being a part of the show every morning. We launch at 8 a.m., and you can get us on all streaming services. Join to listen to our news stories, my commentary, find out who our co-host is, or just tune in so you can listen to Taylor Pace, one of my favorite songs by him, over and over again. All right, let's get into it. It's called The Set of Poe. Mr. Waterby remarked to his wife, "I'm still tempted by the set of Poe. I saw it in the window today, marked down to $15. "Yes," said Mrs. Waterby, with a sudden gasp of emotion, it seemed to him. "Yes, I believe I'll have to get it." I wouldn't if I were you, Alfred, she said. You have so many books now. I know I have, my dear, but I haven't any set of Poe, and that's what I've been wanting for a long time. This edition I was telling you about is beautifully gotten up. Oh, I wouldn't buy it, Alfred, she repeated, and there was a note of pleading, earnest, in her voice. It's so much money to spend for a few books. Well, I know, but... And then he paused, for the lack of words to express his mortified surprise. Mr. Waterby had tried to be an indulgent husband. He took a selfish pleasure in giving and found it more blessed than receiving. Every salary day he turned over to Mrs. Waterby a fixed sum for household expenses. He added to this an allowance for her spending money. He set aside a small amount for his personal expenses and deposited the remainder in the bank. He flattered himself that he approximated the model husband. Mr. Waterby had no costly habits and no prevailing appetite for anything expensive. Like every other man, he had one or two hobbies, and one of his particular hobbies was Edgar Allan Poe. He believed that Poe, of all American writers, was the one unmistakable, quote-unquote, genius. The word genius has been bandied around the country until it has come to be applied to a long-haired man out of work or a stout lady who writes poetry for the rural press. In the case of Poe, Mr. Waterby maintained that genius meant one who was not governed by the common mental processes, but who spoke from inspiration, his mind involuntarily taking superhuman flight into the realm of pure imagination, or something of that sort. At any rate, Mr. Waterby liked Poe, and he wanted a set of Poe. He allowed himself not more than one luxury a year, and he determined that this year the luxury should be a set of Poe. Therefore, imagine the hurt to his feelings when his wife objected to his expending $15 for that which he coveted above anything else in the world. As he went to his work that day, he reflected on Mrs. Waterby's conduct. Did she not have her allowance of spending money? Did he ever find fault with her extravagance? Was he an unreasonable husband in asking that he be allowed to spend this small sum for that which would give him many hours of pleasure, and which would belong to Mrs. Waterby as much as to him? He told himself that many a husband would have bought the books without consulting his wife, but he, Waterby, had deferred to his wife in all matters touching family finances, and he said to himself, with a tincture of bitterness in his thoughts, that probably he had put himself into the attitude of a mere dependent. For had she not forbidden him to buy a few books for himself? Well, no, she had not forbidden him, but it amounted to the same. She had declared that she was firmly opposed to the purchase of Poe. Mr. Waterby wondered if it was possible that he was just beginning to know his wife. Was she a selfish woman at heart? Was she complacent and good-natured and kind only when she was having her own way? Wouldn't she prove to be an entirely different sort of woman if he should do as many husbands do, spend his income on clubs and cigars and private amusement, and gave her the pickings of small change? Nothing in Mr. Waterby's whole experience as a married man had so wrenched his sensibilities and disturbed his faith as Mr. Waterby's objection, and nothing disturbed his faith as Mrs. Waterby's objection to the purchase of the set of Poe. There was but one way to account for it. She wanted all the money for herself, or else she wanted him to put it into the bank so that she could come into it after he, but this was too monstrous. However, Mrs. Waterby's conduct helped to give strength to Mr. Waterby's meanest suspicions. 2 or 3 days after the first conversation, she asked, "You didn't buy that set of Poe, did you, Alfred?" "No, I didn't buy it," he answered, as coldly and with as much hauteur as possible. Apologies, I'll have to look that word up later. He hoped to hear her say, "Well, why don't you go and get it? I'm sure that you want it, and I'd like to see you buy something for yourself once in a while." That would have shown the spirit of a loving and unselfish wife. But she merely said, "That's right, don't buy it." And he was utterly unhappy, for he realized that he had married a woman who did not love him and who simply desired to use him as a pack horse for all household burdens. As soon as Mr. Waterby had learned the horrible truth about his wife, he began to recall little episodes dating back years, and now he pieced them together to convince himself that he was a deeply wronged person. Small at the time and almost unnoticed, they now accumulated to prove that Mrs. Waterby had no real anxiety for her husband's happiness. Also, Mr. Waterby began to observe her more closely, and he believed that he found new evidences of her unworthiness. For one thing, while he was in gloom over the discovery and harassed by doubts of what the future might reveal to him, she was content and even-tempered. The holiday season approached, and Mr. Waterby made a resolution. He decided that if she would not permit him to spend a little money on himself, he would not buy the customary Christmas presents for her. "Selfish is the game at which two can play," he said. Furthermore, he determined that if she asked him for any extra money for Christmas, he would say, "I'm sorry, my dear, but I can't spare any. I am so hard up that I can't even afford to buy a few books I've been wanting a long time. Don't you remember that you told me that I couldn't afford to buy that set of Poe?" Could anything be more biting as to sarcasm or more crushing as to logic? He rehearsed this speech and had it all ready for her, and he pictured to himself her humiliated. He rehearsed this speech and had it all ready for her, and he pictured to himself her humiliation and surprise at discovering that he had some spirit after all, and a considerable say-so whenever money was involved. Unfortunately for his plan, she did not ask for any extra spending money, and so he had to rely on the other mode of punishment. He would withhold the expected Christmas present in order that she might fully understand his purpose. He would give presents to both of the children. It was a harsh measure, he admitted, but perhaps it would teach her to have some consideration for the wishes of others. It might be said that Mr. Waterby was not wholly proud of his revenge when he arose on Christmas morning. He felt that he had accomplished his purpose, and he told himself that his motives had been good and pure, but still he was not satisfied with himself. He went to the dining room, and there on the table, in front of his plate, was a long paper box containing 10 books, each marked Poe. It was the edition he had coveted. "What's this?" he asked, winking slowly, for his mind could not grasp in one moment the fact of his awful shame. "I should think you ought to know, Alfred," said Mrs. Waterby, flushed and giggling like a schoolgirl. "Oh, it was you. My goodness. You've had me so frightened. This first day when you spoke of buying them, I told you not to. I was just sure that you'd suspect something. I bought them a week before that." Yes, said Mr. Waterby, filling the salt water in his eyes. At the moment he had the soul of a wretch being whipped at the stake. "I was determined not to ask you for any money to pay for your own presents," Mr. Waterby continued. "Do you know I had to save... I was determined not to ask you for any money to pay for your own presents," Mrs. Waterby continued. "Do you know I had to save for you and the children out of my regular allowance? Why, last week I nearly starved you, and you never noticed at all. I was afraid you would." "No, I didn't notice it," said Mr. Waterby brokenly, for he was confused and giddy. The self-sacrificing angel, and he had bought no Christmas present for her. It was a fearful situation, and he lied his way out of it. "How did you like your present?" he asked. Why, I haven't seen it yet, she said, looking across at him in surprise. You haven't? I told them to send it up yesterday. The children were shouting and laughing over their gifts in the next room, and he felt it in his duty to lie for their sake. Well, don't tell me what it is, interrupted Mrs. Waterby. Wait until it comes. I'll go after it. He did go after it, although he had to drag a jeweler away from his home on Christmas Day and have him open his great safe. The ring which he selected was beyond his means, it is true, but when a man has to buy back his self-respect, the price is never too high. Originally published in the Chicago Record, December 28th, 1897. Collected in Babel, Stories of Chicago, 1903. Christmas Stories by George Ade. And this one was posted Sunday, December 15th, 2024. And we're reading this straight off of storyoftheweek.ioa.org. I wanted to find a story that I hadn't heard before. I started by looking up Paul Harvey stories, and for some reason I just couldn't find any that sounded like Paul Harvey. I didn't want to play an audio clip, so I found this one. And I'm not disappointed. That was cool. We get kind of wrapped up in our heads sometimes. I know I do. And misinterpret people's intentions. Sometimes maybe we can just let it play out and let them tell us what's going on rather than jumping to conclusions. Did you ever see Office Space? Jump to conclusions, Matt? I bet he did. I bet he bought the biggest, baddest ring that jeweler had in the safe because he screwed up. I can't imagine how embarrassed one would be. So, a new tradition is born, and next year we're going to have some Christmas music on the board. I just want to take a moment to say thank you. All of our friends and family and listeners out there enjoying their Christmas day together. And for every episode you listen to, for every post you shared online, every event you come to, every text message you send me, and every phone call I get, thank you. And Merry Christmas. As you move through this Christmas day, I hope that you will choose love and gratitude every chance you get. Until tomorrow, folks. Merry Christmas. And good day.
So she got that soul. Oh,